Hi, everybody. I'm Roy Firestone. 7 years ago, Erin Kelly, the daughter of Jill and Jim Kelly, wrote a book with her mother about the courage and struggles and the toll a cancer battle takes on a family. The book is called Kelly Tough, and it details her commitment to her faith, her family, and of course her father, who endured multiple setbacks in his cancer fight. Jim was diagnosed with cancer of the jaw about 9 years ago. And Erin also wrote about the courage and love of a child who wouldn't live very long in her family, her brother, Hunter. Erinn Kelly joins us now. Hi, Erin. Nice to see you. Thank you for joining us. It's a great pleasure to meet you. The book really blew me away. It was very emotional. I happen to not be of the faith, but it didn't matter because it was about faith, which I do believe in general. And I also believe in family and hope and all those things. You gave me chills reading it. And you and your mom are to be commended. It's a beautiful, beautiful book.
Thank you.
I want to talk about, though, one of the first quotes that really struck me. And you're going to reflect on the quote. This is 7 years ago, of course, when the book came out. You wrote, "Sometimes the victory isn't in the winning or the losing, but in the willingness to join the fight, regardless of the odds or the fear." Can you tell me that you weren't afraid all those years ago?
Oh, I definitely was. There were definitely moments where I was afraid, especially, giving that my dad only had less than 10% chance to make it through cancer and just the cancer returning again and again. And even with my brother growing up with his terminal disease, there was a lot to be afraid of, but I clung to my faith every single day. And that really is what got me through. And it is my faith, my family's faith that allowed us to keep fighting every single day, to walk into my dad's room and just fight in prayer on his behalf. And so, even though we have a strong faith in God, there is still that fear, but we have something to go to with our faith. We have God to cling to when, we don't know what tomorrow is going to hold.
Mm-hmm. 20 years ago, the Hall of Fame, you were there, just a little girl. I mean, just outside of being a baby, you were like in your 3, 4, 5, something like that.
Something like that.
The speech just blew everybody away. You were there, and Hunter was still alive, obviously. We're going to take a look back at that speech in a few seconds, and then we're going to reflect on that too.
Then there's my only son, Hunter, born on February 14th, Valentine's Day, my birthday, the son I've always wanted. But within 4 months, my son was diagnosed with a fatal disease called Krabbe leukodystrophy. It has been written throughout my career that toughness is my trademark. Well, the toughest person I've ever met in my life is my hero, my soldier, my son, Hunter. I love you, buddy.
Oof, I still get chills.
Still gets me every single time. Still makes me tear up every time. I
like what you wrote in your book when you said, Hunter was born on the same day as Jim, as your dad, February 14th, 1997. His eyes were emerald green and the sparkle like stars. And I thought he was the most handsome boy I'd ever seen. I looked to his tiny hands and his long fingers. I imagined that someday he would get to be big and strong and able to throw a football like my dad, but he never did. Listen, Erin, I know you're a grateful person. Your whole family is wildly grateful, but it's still terribly, terribly cruel and unfair that little boy didn't get that chance.
I think that looking back, God definitely did immeasurably more than all that we thought that he could possibly do. I mean, I had a brother who, was terminally ill, but that's all I knew growing up. So Hunter, in my eyes, was just this normal little boy who I really thought that, he would grow up one day, and I never thought that we would lose him ever. In my little girl mind back then, there was nothing wrong with him. He was just Hunter to me. But obviously the reality is that, it was a terminal illness, but, we just we lived every single day. And that's what our family decided to do, was that even though this was a disease that was killing my brother, we decided we were going to live.
Yeah, that's one of the quotes again from the book that I thought was terrific. You said we chose to treat Hunter like he was living rather than dying. We took him horseback riding and swimming and sledding, even snowmobiling. And yes, those expressions of love offered, it's a lot of extra work, but those monumental achievements were buried treasure. I love that phrase. It was a kind of buried treasure. I now understand what a gift it is to take care of those who can't take care of themselves, and to give for the pure sake of giving to someone unable to give you anything back in return. And yet you did get something back in return. In fact, you said it so beautifully in the book. You, strange as it may seem to some people to hear this, you kind of miss the sound of those motors running to keep them, to sustain them late at night. And of course you miss him, but it did give you something back, and people would think you got nothing back because he couldn't speak. There's so many things he couldn't do.
Right.
Talk about what you got back.
I mean, we got so much. I feel like our family got life from Hunter. Everything that we got, joy, we got just passion to help other people. We have a story that we can share to give hope to those who feel hopeless. And Hunter, because of Hunter, we have faith in God. And without him, we wouldn't have that. He taught us to live every day as if it was our last. And I think through Hunter's life, he made us who we are. I mean, we wouldn't be the people that we are today without him. And he taught us so much about fighting the good fight. And like my dad said in his speech, like, that's his hero, and he's my hero too.
You know, it also spawned Hunter's Hope. I wonder if you could talk about that for a moment, about the foundation and the hope that it extends to other families. It's a very rare disease, obviously, but there are other people who've lost hope in other ways, and Hunter's Hope maybe helps sustain those people.
Oh, absolutely. Hunter's Hope is huge. It's Hunter's legacy, but also it is so meant to help those families who also have leukodystrophies. Krabbe is what Hunter had. But there are many leukodystrophies that they are very rare, but Hunter's Hope is a place for them to go and to get insight and to get help and to get support. And, you know, we don't realize that they need so much more support than just, you know, medical support. They need support for their mental health and their emotional health. And they need to know that there is hope. And so that's what Hunter's Hope is all about, is really providing hope for them in the now, but also, you know, through our faith, providing them with the reality that there is a greater hope. And our family finds that in our relationship with God. And so many people have been impacted by Hunter's Hope, even families that, you know, don't have a child that has the same disease.
You know, I look back now and I can't believe what you went through. I mean, everybody in your family went through it. Of course, your dad went through it. He lost his son. And then, of course, he had those battles, and your mom and what she went through. But in 2015, when your dad was diagnosed, we have some pictures that are just heartbreaking, but they're beautiful too. When you look at these pictures now and you look at all the support and the hardship and the pain and the suffering and the fear, but you also were heartened by the fact that you could give this to your dad.
Yeah. I mean, just looking back at those pictures, it takes me back to those moments of just being in the hospital with him every single day, and being away from home, having to live in New York City for a little while he was getting treatment, and just the desperation he was in. But our family pulled together. We all pulled together, my mom, my sister, me, and then all of my dad's brothers and my dad's really close friends. And we had such a great support system. And although it was extremely hard, we fought through it. And, you know, we came out on the other side able to hopefully provide hope for other people, because there's so many people who either know someone who has cancer or have gone through cancer themselves. Like, everyone is impacted by cancer in some way. So we know that our story is wasted. My dad knows that, you know, everything he went through is not wasted. And looking back on all of that, as hard as it is, and as much as I would never want to go back to those moments, we would never want to have to endure that again. We are seeing just the redemption of all of those things now.
Mm-hmm. I want to make sure I have it right chronologically. I know that you were in Israel at the Wailing Wall, and I believe in the book you found out that your father had a relapse. I think that that's correct.
Yes.
And you were so blown away by this. You could tell there was something wrong because someone was taking the phone call, and you could read what was happening in that phone call. There's some bad news back, because no one would be calling us here in Israel. And this
Right.
was something, no one was calling to say hello.
Right.
And you could sense there was something wrong. And then when you found out that there was a relapse, you wrote a prayer for your dad. We have a couple of pictures. This is you literally writing a prayer for your father, and you're putting it into the Wailing Wall. And the thing that just blew me away, Erin, was what you wrote. And this is why I think you're a very gifted and talented writer, as well as inspirational. You said, the Wailing Wall itself, we wail at a wall of our own choosing, the walls of fear and doubt and unforgiveness, the pride, walls we build up in order to protect ourselves, walls that ultimately confine and enslave us. I knew that even though in that moment my dad and I were separated by a wall thousands of miles wide, so much greater than both of us, it wasn't greater than God and what he was going to do in the midst of our circumstances. Wow, what a mature thing to write. You're probably in your early 20s, I'm going to say, or maybe just in maybe 21, or when you wrote that. What a powerful observation you have about life, about walls. Did you have a wall around you that no one could get into because of the pain and suffering you endured?
I think looking back, I did, and that's something I didn't realize until recently. Struggling with my own mental health over the past few years, I realized that there was this wall that I had put up to protect myself from more pain because of all that our family had gone through. But I've also realized that, tearing those walls down allows vulnerability, and that's hard and that is not easy. But when I have, shared my own story of just walking through, my own personal pain, I've seen just so many people reach out to me and say, like, thank you. Like, I thought I was the only one. I needed this. And
Yeah.
so I don't think that don't really realize until after the fact that there are walls that we build up in our life to protect ourselves. And
And
it's
by
not
the way, whether it's related to illness or not, people have
right.
walls in all different possibilities in life. They're
Right.
afraid. They live with fear every day.
Yes. And people don't realize the walls that they've placed around them to protect themselves. But at the same time, it can actually cause a lot more pain to have those walls and barriers up in life.
Beautiful. We're going to talk about what it was like to get the support, not just of you and your sister and your mother and your family, but all kinds of people. We have a clip of you guys going to see your dad. I think this is just before he came out. And this is, by the way, we thank Outside the Lines from ESPN to show some of these videos. But look at all the outpouring from people he never met or never knew, include some people he did know. But what did that teach you about humanity?
I mean, we were absolutely blown away by the amount of support. People throughout the NFL, Bills fans, but beyond that, I mean, people in other countries that were supporting our family and
Really?
praying
Wow.
for our family. It was beyond what we had ever hoped and dreamed would happen. And it really just showed me specifically about our Buffalo Bills community that, we do rally together, but also just the people all around the world that rallied around our family. It showed me that there's a link between all of us. And the link between all of us is that we live in a world where there is suffering and there is pain. And that's something we can all really come together on. And it's when those things happen, it's when those hard times happen that we do come together, no matter if we believe in the same things, we live in the same world, or we have, different statuses in life, whatever it may be that kind of separates us as humanity. Suffering is something that brings us all together, but it also provides hope. And that's also something that just community, clings to, is in the midst of suffering, we can all cling to hope.
You know, there was a moment in the book where I had to read it twice because I couldn't believe it. You were reading Twitter one day and somebody said, "I hope your father dies." And I can't imagine how that must have made you feel. I can't imagine how shocked and hurt and heartbroken you must have been to read that. And yet you found room for forgiveness of this person.
Yeah, that definitely wasn't easy. Forgiveness, I don't think, is ever easy. I will never forget when I read that tweet, and also my sister was there, and she was a teenager, and I was actually, I think, 18 at the time, and we're 4 years apart, so she was only 14, and for us both to see that was really hard. And I just remember my sister sitting there crying and just being like, how could someone say something like that? But at the end of the day, our whole family came to realize, you know what, a person who says something like that, they're hurting. They're hurting in their own way. And we don't know what that is, but there's something in their own life that they're struggling with, and they have their own pain, because you don't say stuff like that just to say it, because it is cruel, and it hurt. And, you know,
It's evil. It's also evil. It's
yeah.
not just cruel, but it's evil.
Yeah, it is. And, you know, it took a little while to come to a place where I was able to, you know, say, like, I'll never meet that person, but to forgive them from afar, knowing that this is someone that has, you know, no contact with my family. Like, they don't know us, they don't know who we are as people. But in forgiveness in general, you know, it's not always for the other person, it's really for you. And so it was healing for me and my family to decide to forgive. And forgiveness is a decision, and it's not easy, but it's worth it.
Mm. The day your dad left the hospital, you were all there with him.
Mm-hmm.
And there you guys are taking him out. Boy, this must have been emotional for you to see your dad high-fiving and touching everybody who applauded him. Talk about that moment.
I mean, even looking back, it's just incredible, the amount of support. And I'm so grateful for that moment, because that is a moment of victory to me. Like, when I see that, I think of victory, and that, you know, God carried us through so much, and he surrounded us with such incredible people. And that moment, just, yes, it was victory, and it was freedom, and it was life. And there were so many words that I could put to it, but I will never forget that. It felt like we had made it through the darkness, and that we were walking into the light.
Oh, beautifully said. And then your dad had to speak. I don't know, he couldn't get quite through it to thank everybody at that hospital. Watch.
I know I could not have done this without family and friends, and you guys have been here. Thank you. Guys, got a long way to go, but I know with you people on my team, I'll be here for many, many more years and many, many more parties. And yeah, so thank you, guys.
It's one of the most amazing stories. Obviously, your dad won the Valvano Award. I say won, he earned it in his courage, who said, don't give up, don't ever give up. Of course, you know that, having probably been to that event. But I want to talk about your family now and define your family if you can. We're going to take a look at some pictures of you guys together about the strength of the Kelly family.
You know, my family is incredible. My mom, I don't know how she has done it. She has been through so much. And I mean, I do know how she's done it. It's been by the grace of God, because she has been through extreme amounts of pain, from watching my brother and my brother passing away, to just standing alongside my dad through everything. She is one of the strongest people I know. I admire her in so many ways. And then there's my sister Cam, and she brings us so much joy and laughter into our family. And, you know, when all of us are down, she's the one to come around us and just bring life into our family. And then there's my dad, and he is just so selfless. Even when he was in the hospital and people were taking care of him, he was always concerned about someone else. I'll never forget when he was in the hospital and he was getting discharged, and he had received so many flowers and so many gifts from so many people. And there was a man who was in the room next to us, and he had terminal cancer. And my dad—
What's his name? I think it was was it Jonathan? I don't know if it was in the book.
Yeah, it's in the book. I can't remember his
I think
specific
it was
name.
his name was Jonathan, right?
Yeah.
And your father took the time to comfort him while he was in pain.
Yes, and that is the definition of my dad. That is who he is. Anyone that knows him well will say the same thing. He's selfless, and he will, he'll sacrifice his own well-being for someone else. He'll put other people before himself. And our family has really come together through everything that we've gone through, and we are closer because of it. We're better because of it. Our family has really never been so close, and it's because we've gone through struggle together. And a lot of families, those types of things can tear them apart. And I'm so grateful that, although we would never want to go through that again, and I wish something else would have brought us closer together, but we have never been closer as a family, and it was through our pain.
Really, really well said. Hey, final moments. Thank you for taking the time to. We really appreciate it. I do this sometimes. Maybe just give me a sentence or one line when I say the word, and tell me what it means to you when I throw these words at you. First one is faith.
Faith is my foundation. It's a part of who I am. It is who I am. I wouldn't be me without my faith. It's what I stand on. And not just in the hard times, but in the good times too. And it's really just carried me through life. And I don't know who I would be apart from my faith in God.
How about family?
Family means everything to me. Everything to me. It always has and always will. And I'm very protective of my family and very loyal to my family. And I'm so honored and thankful for the family that God has given me. It's truly a blessing.
How about another F? Fear. Is fear useful?
Absolutely. I think fear is very useful. And, do we all hate fear? Do we all hate being afraid? Absolutely. But I link fear to both family and faith. My fear in certain circumstances has caused me to, one, rely on God and my faith and turn to him in the midst of my fear, but also my family. It has caused me to, go to them and be honest with them. And, we've all been fearful at the same time together, and it's drawn us closer and allowed us to lean on each other in those times of fear.
Mm-hmm. Another F, friendship.
Friendship. In our family's life, we have been surrounded by incredible friends who have been there in the good and the ugly. And those are true friends, I believe, are the ones that will stand by you during the hardest moments. And we really witnessed that with my dad. And every time he's gone through cancer, the true friends are the ones that are there no matter what. Mm-hmm. And that is so important. And that's true friendship right there.
Tied into faith is the word love. Tell me what love means to you.
Love is unconditional to me. And that is something that no matter what happens, love remains. And that is what I found, is that in the midst of it all, love has remained and it stayed unconditional. And there are a lot of things, if anyone's read my mom's book, a lot of things that, have happened in my parents' marriage and how I've watched their love just thrive and just be renewed. And watching my dad go through cancer and seeing my mom walk alongside him through that and care for him and just stay night after night in the hospital with him. It showed me what true love is. And true love is not the kind that is just during the good times. It is in every time. And I think about vows because I'm married, and I think about in sickness and in health. And I have witnessed that in my parents' marriage is that, love remains in sickness and in health, and that is true love.
Mm. The last one, and again, there's so many elements to this story, but we have to go with the center of it right now, and that's Jim Kelly. In a paragraph, tell me about your dad.
My dad is, I want to say first that he's real. And by that, I mean that when people look at celebrities, they often think they have their own perceptions of who this person is. And, they have money and they have fame and, they must have the greatest life. But my dad's just a real person. And anyone that has met him, whether it's a fan or whoever it is, he's real and he's genuine and he's down to earth. And he's just a person. He's just like everybody else. Yeah, he had an incredible football career and he is a Hall of Famer, but more than that, he's just a real person and he wants to impact people in such an incredible way through his story. And my dad is vulnerable and authentic, and he has no fear in sharing his faith, no fear in sharing his story. He wants to help others. And that's something that I admire the most about him, is that he is not wasting his pain. He's not wasting the journey he's walking through. He is passionate about impacting others. And the saying that he has coined and just says in all of his speaking engagements to encourage people is to make a difference today for someone who is fighting for their tomorrow. And that's exactly what he does. He makes a difference for the people that are still fighting for their tomorrow.
Mm. It's been an unbelievable pleasure to meet you, because I was so touched by the book. And by the way, I have my own shirt.
Oh, I love that.
I know it's bleeding through on the green screen here, but I have this
great.
for the University of Miami's version of Kelly Tough. And I'm just so honored to meet you. And I thank you for this beautiful exchange, chatting with me. And I know the book's been out a few years, but I urge the folks to get a hold of this one, because it's really a great book. And you have quite a gift, my dear. You have a chance to be an accomplished writer. I don't know if that's your goal, or if that's a dream for you to get a Pulitzer Prize or something someday, maybe.
Maybe we'll see. There's stuff in the works, but yeah.
It's worth shooting for. Thanks
Absolutely.
for being Kelly Tough and writing Kelly Tough. Thank you, Erin.
Thank you so much. It's been a privilege.
Okay. And thank you for watching, everybody. We'll see you next time.